Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
So
sir.
when we say sampling, so sampling is a skill in order to examine evidence. Sufficient examples to establish a degree of conformity or non-conformity. Our sampling is going to define us that if the organization is meeting the requirements or they are not meeting the requirements. How we are going to define the sampling, how we are going to judge that in detail we have to go. It includes sample plan or statistical methods. But as I told you, in our audits, in our third party or second party or first party audit, we don't use such sampling plans or statistical methods. Otherwise, when we are doing the sampling for our products, for our services, sometimes have you seen that the company say that we will go for 95% sampling, we will go for 90% sampling. So they define according to their process need. But in ISO audits, in third party audits, there is no such formula which can be used to perform the sampling. The sampling will be based on the, again, the sampling will be based on the risk. The more risk, having the risk in the department or the activity, the more depth we have to go. Those departments which are not having much risk, we can skip them. We can go in a very simple way. We no need to go in much detail on these things. Sometimes it happens that, for example, you have 3 production line or you have 3 services. So in one of the audit, you will go in one production line in depth, and the second and third production line you will not go in much detail. But in first surveillance audit, you will go in the production line number 2 in more depth rather than production line number 1 and 2. Similarly, in surveillance 2 audit, you will go in depth about the production line number 3. So in one cycle of the certification, you have gone through all the important lines which are necessary. Sometimes it happens that the company, they have chain of stores. Sometimes it happens that, for example, we have Albaq. So Albaq has more than maybe 40 or 50 only branches in Jeddah. So when the Albaq says that we are going for the certification of 9000 or any of the management system standard, it is not necessary that every time all of the Albaq branches should be audited. So they will be taking on the basis of sampling. For example, we will ask them, okay, which of your branches are the most largest branches? They will say, okay, this branch, this branch, this branch. Then we will ask them, okay, which of the branches are having more revenue generation? So they will say this branch, this branch. So on the basis of these things, we will take the sample where the more activities are being carried out, where or which are more important for the client. So similarly, there are some companies, for example, construction companies, project-based companies, they have at one time, they have number of projects. So it is not necessary that we will go for the audit of all projects, because most of the projects have same activities which are being carried out. Only the location is changed. So we select one site or 2 sites, and on the basis of these sampling bases, we conclude about the whole company. So sampling rule is very simple, depending on the judgment of auditor, depending on the past experience, and focusing on the risk. You can ask them their risk register, and from the risk register, you can have much better idea that, okay, which of the sites or which of the activities are more important to cover, and which of the activities are having less risk. So we can skip them, or we should not go in much detail, and we can keep the less timing for these audits. Clear, guys? So now we will start our session number 9. Session 9 is about audit findings and how to write the findings, what are the categories of findings, what is the purpose, structure and contents, and attendees typically at the audit review meeting, understand and processes of identifying and drafting the statements, explain the methods for identifying non-conformities, describe the typical corrective action request, then what are the classification and amplification of cards, what are opportunities for improvement, and different grades of cars. When we say cars, it is not that car which we have, it's about corrective action request, right? What is audit finding? There are 2 main classification of audit finding. The audit finding could be a non-conformity or opportunity for improvement. When we say non-conformity, which means the most common word which we use during the audits are the non-conformity. This non-conformity, it is not necessary that it will always be come from the auditing. This non-conformity could be a process non-conformity. This non-conformity could be a system non-conformity. This non-conformity could come in the internal audit. So it is not necessary that the terminology of non-conformity you will be using only for the audit especially. This if there is a requirement in a system that you have to monitor this before release of product. So, and if this parameter is not being monitored or is not being checked, so this could be considered as a non-conformity. For example, your product required that you should add 5% of water in one of the product, and you are not be able to add 5% when you are when you receive the complaint, or when there is a final testing occur, it comes that you have added only 2% of water. So this will be considered as a non-conformity. Non-conformity, what is non-conformity? Non-conformity is a non-fulfillment of requirement. Non-conformity is the non-fulfillment. There are requirements, and from where we will get the requirements? We will get the requirements from ISO 9001 standard. We will get the requirements from ISO, from the legal and other requirement. We will get the requirements from company own policies and procedures. So any of the non-conformity which can be defined as the non-fulfillment of a requirement. So that's why it is not limited to the audit only. This can also be from the process. This can also be from our activities or the services which we are going to provide. Who is going to define the definition of non-conformity? This definition of non-conformity is being defined in 19,011-2018 version. No non-conformity, no requirement. No requirement, no non-conformity. Always remember, we are going to raise the non-conformity when maybe the failure of complying with the standard, as I told you, complying with implement a process or the other documented requirement, implementing a legal or contractual requirement. When we say contractual requirement, which means the agreement between you and your client, right? Which gives you the idea about that how our product should be, what are the stages of our product, what should be the size, what should be the design, and all the parameters. These we can consider as the contractual documents. And similarly, meet the specification. For example, I just gave you the example of water, that you have defined some specification for your products. So these has to be fulfilled. Otherwise, it will be considered as a non-conform. So when we are going to give the non-conformity in our audits, we focus on the standard, we focus on the legal requirement, we focus on the company own policies and procedures. So if any of the requirement which is under our scope of system, these are not going to be met, we can raise it as a non-conformity. But if there is a benefit of doubt, but if it is not a clear requirement, if the company says maybe, if the standard says maybe, should be, can be, this cannot be a non-conformity. When we say non-conformity, which means the standard define this as a shall requirement. So if it is not a shall requirement in the standard, we cannot raise as a non-conformity. Any question? Yes, guys, any question about non-conformity?
Sir, I had one question, but you have already cleared that the requirement is legal and according to the what is discussed according to the company and documentations. So
okay.
I want, yeah, thank you.
A finding statement, when we say finding, it could be a non-conformity. When we say non-conformity, it could be a finding. It is not necessary to classify. As I told you, in stage 1, there is no such classification of non-conformity. We call it findings. Sometimes we call it as a critical and non-critical findings. But in stage 2, there is a clear classification about non-conformities. So in stage 2, we have major non-conformity or minor non-conformity. We will discuss it. So what are we going to include in the non-conformity statement? We have seen that many times that auditors, they do very hard work during the audit. They have applied their 100% capabilities to make the audit successful. They have gone in depth to the audit. They have concluded the audit very well. The client is also very much satisfied the way he is performing the audit. His reports, his audit trail, they are also very good. But unfortunately, if they are weak in defining the non-conformities or the finding statement, all of their hard working is gone. Because if when we are submitting the report, we don't know up to how many level of the companies this report is going to be reviewed. Sometimes the company board of director, they ask, okay, show us the report submitted by the third party auditor. Sometimes your major clients, Aramco nowadays, before Aramco, they said, submit your certificate. But after having many cases of fake certificates, now Aramco, most of the time they are asking that, okay, we don't need only your certificate, but we also need your report of the third party audit, because they see that when the Aramco is doing the audit, the company has major issues. When the third party is doing the audit, they issue the certificate which saying all is well, all is well. So that's why. So your report is going to tell many things. And when you are in a closing meeting, you can express your finding verbally, you can show them, you can convince them. But when you are not available, you have gone, now you will come next year. In between, many of the people are going to review your reports. So those people or those parties may be legal bodies, maybe corporate bodies, maybe your customers and clients. When they are going to review your report, they should have clear idea that what was the missing thing which you have mentioned. Your report, your non, especially the non-conforming finding, should have a clarity about what you want to say and what you have said, because the company will be working on what you have written on the report. That everyone will forget what you have speaking, right? So that's why our non-conformity should include a clear statement of the non-conformity. What is the problem? When we say non-conformity, in simple words, problem. So the clear statement about non-conformity, what's wrong or what is the problem, and then evidence on which non-conformity is based. Definitely, if there is no evidence, remember, gathering information, then filtering information, then verifying this information, then evaluate with the criteria. So if the evidence is not available, or if the evidence is not concrete, then we cannot raise it as a non-conformance. So to have the non-conformity, we need clear statement of the non-conformity, then the evidence. What have you seen? Maybe this evidence will be from the same four sources. Remember, people, process, equipment, and document. It could be some statement from some of the company employee. It could be from some documented requirement. It could be from some equipment or the production area. It could be from some other documents which are needed. So we need to define clearly what is the evidence which we have seen or which is not going to be fulfilled. And the summary of requirement. The up to this thing is easy. Okay. We have seen most of the time when you are a new auditor, you will show that, okay, this is the evidence which is not going to be fulfilled. But what is that? Where is the requirement written? This has to be, this has to be polished, and this will come with the passage of time. With one course of this auditing, you will not get the idea for everything. But you, as a good auditor, you have to be very clear about what is written in the standard, and the evidence which I'm going to show or which I'm going to raise as a non-conformity, do they have anything in the standard or no? If these are not being addressed in the standard, then it cannot be raised as a non-conformity. So these three parts are required in our finding statement or the non-conformity statement. Number one, clear statement of non-conformity. Number two, evidence on which the non-conformity is based. And the third one is the summary of requirement, which is not met. So we have to tell the client, we have to tell the auditee that this is the summary or this is the requirement which you did not fulfill. So that's why it is a non-conformity. Sometimes in the closing meeting, the auditee asks you, okay, sir, you have given us very good finding. We are taking this finding, but could you please tell us where is this requirement mentioned in the standard so we can improve ourselves? So if you don't have the clear idea where it is written in the standard, then you will not be able to give them a clear requirement. So that's why I'm making you practice again and again for the standard, because the more strong will be your standard, the much stronger you can raise the fine and nobody can challenge you.
But if you don't have a much evidence available, if you don't know where is the requirement in standard, then it might be possible that the auditee in the internal audit or external audit or third party audit, they are going to challenge you, or they are going to ask you, sir, where is the requirement? Can you please show us in the standard? I know in some of the cases, the auditees, they sit with the standard. So if any finding raised, they can catch the auditor at the same time. So where is it? It is written in the standard. So you have to prepare well. So this is the time when you will be, remember before closing meeting, we have some time where we have to do the activities, where we have to finalize our report writing. So during this time, we will see the requirements and we will write our non-conforming statement so we can show it to the client during the audit. You can see the example of finding a statement. For example, purchase documentation is not being implemented in full. That not all purchase orders are being fully completed. So this is a statement of non-conformity, right? This is a statement that there is some issues with the purchase order. The purchase documentation is not being implemented in full, in that not all purchase orders are being fully completed. That maybe there will be a requirement that purchase order should be fulfilled completely, but when they have seen the purchase order, they have seen that these are not fully completed. Okay, so this is our overview of the finding, or we can say that the statement of non-conformity. And then what is the evidence? For example, you can use, for example, you can use some other word instead of example. PO number 1234 and 1235 do not show the prices or delivery. So this is our example. Our example are, we have seen the PO number 1234 and 1235. And when we have seen these POs as an example or as an evidence, we don't find them to have the pricing and the delivery date available. So what is the requirement now? You have raised the finding. So what is the requirement now? We have to define requirement. All documentation must be completed in accordance with instructions QI6, right? Our instructions, which are, maybe there is a work instructions in purchase department, which is going to define that whenever you are going to fulfill the POs, these POs must have the price and the delivery dates available. So when you are going to see during the audit, when you have seen the POs, you have find that 1234 and 1235, they does not show the prices and the delivery date. So that's why you have mentioned this with their own policies and procedure. Now you can see that interesting thing, that in this non-conformity, they have not mentioned the reference of a standard, right? There is no such reference of a standard of ISO 9001. So because why? We have already told you that a non-conformity could be from the standard, a non-conformity could be from the company policies and procedures, a non-conformity could be from the legal requirements, and a non-conformity could be from any specification. So if any of these things are missing, we can raise them as a non-conformity. Yes, guys, any question?
Sir, we should not mention whether the conformity is against legal requirements or standard or anything, or just that statement is enough.
You have mentioned in the last, this all documentation must be completed in accordance with instruction QI 16.
Okay, so this QI 16 is like part of their quality management system.
Exactly. You have seen, maybe this is their purchase department procedure.
Okay, okay, noted.
Or if you want to elaborate further, see, this is a very simple example. Now, for example, we know that purchase is also a part of ISO 9001 standard. So as an auditor, we will be also giving the clause of purchase with this finding. Okay, that the requirement of company owned policies and procedure is missing, but at the same time, purchase is also a part of quality management system. So that's why we have mentioned that the purchase clause.
Okay,
right? So it will be more, much better, and the client will be more satisfied that you have given the requirement of clause itself. Yes, QI 16 is maybe SOP or work instructions, which is necessary for the production department, purchase department. Okay, what is CAR? CAR. When we say CAR, it means that corrective action request. When you are raising the non-conformity, you will be raising it in some format. Most of the time, we call it CAR format. And you can see in your learner guidance document, appendix number 25, which is a CAR format. A CAR form, what is the use of this CAR form? Again, we can use this CAR form for the non-conformities of audit. We can use this CAR form for the non-conformities of system. We can use this CAR form for our internal non-conformities. We can use this CAR form for our external non-conformities. I have seen some companies, mashallah, they have very good system of this raising a CAR. So what they have done, or they used to do, that whenever they are even getting any of the finding in the third party audit, like stage 1 or stage 2 or the surveillance audit, they put them in their own CAR format. Okay, and then in their CAR format there is a requirement for root cause analysis. They form the investigation team, and then they assign the auditee, they assign the target date, and they follow up until unless this CAR format is going to be fulfilled or the corrective action is going to be taken. So this is a very good practice, that even if the third party auditor does not provide you the CAR format, most of the time for the major non-conformities, they require to have the corrective action. But the minor non-conformities, sometimes they required and sometimes they don't require. So as an auditee, as a client, it should be your own practice that you should use your internal audit findings, your external audit findings, your stage 1, stage 2 surveillance or legal audit, whatever findings you get from these audits. So you will put them as a individually in the CAR format. So every finding will have one individual CAR format, and this will be a unique number for each. For example, CAR 001, CAR 002, CAR 003, and then you will do again the same thing: root cause analysis, who is the team member for the investigation, what is the corrective action proposed, what are the timelines, who is responsible person, and verification of corrective action, and then up to the closure of the CAR. Yes, Rahat, any question?
Yeah, sir, regarding the corrective actions is here, the CAR. They mentioned the corrective action for the non-conformities. But if we have, before we discuss the findings, okay? So if there is, that is not a non-conformity, but still we have finding. I mean, this what you call this for improvements, findings for improvements, okay? So that case, so that will not be in a corrective action. We have findings, but that is not a non-conformity, a finding. Okay, so the corrective action is only for the non-conformities, or the corrective action is also for the non-conformity, only for finding?
Very, very good question. See, finding is a very generic word. Finding contains non-conformity, finding contains observation, finding contains major non-conformity or minor non-conformity or observation. So you will be issuing the CAR against all findings. Ideally, right? A good practice is to raise the CAR against all findings. So all of the finding, if it is major or if it is minor or if it is observation, the company or your client can do the root cause analysis and the investigation and put the target date and make someone responsible, and they should fulfill the requirement, right? But minimum you can raise this CAR form for at least non-conformances. If it is a major non-conformance or if it is a minor non-conformance, no problem. But you should raise the CAR form for at least the non-conformance. But ideally, for each finding, you can raise the CAR form, no problem. It is a good practice.
Okay, thank you.
And this again, I told you again and again, the non-conformities, similarly the CARs, they are not dependent only on the audit. This corrective action, those companies who are getting benefit of ISO 9001, they have a very good system of non-conformities. They have a very good system of corrective actions. So whenever they find any deviation in the process, they raise it as a non-conformity and they put in the CAR format and they do the root cause analysis. And some companies, those who are taking this 9001 just for the sake of a certification, they don't raise any non-conformity in their processes. They don't do the root cause analysis. They don't have any record available. Whenever the need comes for the process improvement or they have done deviation, they do it through verbal communication or through some meeting, but there is no documentation available. And they think that this CAR format is only for the internal audit findings and external audit findings, which
But
is
during,
incorrect.
okay,
Yes.
yeah, during audit, when you are an editor, okay, so you are not checking the preventive action, the corrective action, the CAR, I mean the
We
company
check.
procedure.
We check. Definitely we check. And sometimes we raise this point that why your corrective action is limited to the non-conformity of audit. Why your corrective action is limited to the internal audit finding. Why don't you raise the corrective action in your process also?
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because this is improvement tool. That's why it is in the clause number 10, which means the improvement, act, improve. So improvement will come only from the audit. The improvement is not possible other than audit. It is possible other than audit. So you can use this CAR format. Yes, Mazid.
Sir, is it, does this form was in the previous standard called CPAR?
Yes, the same thing, CPA.
So now we have to change
because
that.
we don't have the preventive clause now.
So we have to change the form also, right?
Yeah. See, again, the same thing. It depends on organization. I don't say change or I don't say don't change. Ideally, you should go as per standard, right? But
Yes.
Standard does not say that no need for preventive action now. Is there written somewhere in the standard? No. So if you want to keep it, keep it. But if you follow the standard in actual word by word, then you should take out the word preventive, because this preventive is a part of risk.
Okay.
Right? So if you have the risk management system now, if you are doing the risk assessment with regards to quality now, so no need for P. But if you think no, this P is good, our people will have are already used to of having this preventive action, it's up to you, right? But that is not required by standard.
Thank you, sir.
Again, the same question, against the same statement, I'm going to repeat. The standard is going to give you the minimum requirement. If you want to take more requirement, it's up to you. The standard is not going to say don't do this. The standard say what needs to do. Okay, what needs to do more, it is your own choice. So corrective action is used of a corrective action format or the form used for report non-conformities, classification of non-conformities, record acceptance of non-conformities, record action of non-conformities, and record auditor acceptance of corrective actions. So in one CAR format, you will find these 5 or 6 elements which are necessary, right? You can develop your own simple CAR format. You can use the same appendix 24 for the CAR format. Sometimes we have seen that in the formats they have 2 kind of non-conformities. They put as non-conformity from the audit or non-conformity from the process. So when you make tick mark on any of one, then you will do all your root cause analysis, investigation, and the target date and the action plan, whatever you are going to do. So you can use this CAR format for both purpose. But these are some of the requirements which should be available in the CAR format. The standard does not give you any specific format. The standard says that these things should be available. So CAR contains the applicable function, process or procedure, standard and clause number. As I told you, your non-conformity, your finding should also be relevant to some standard clause. If the non-conformity is not relevant to any of the standard clause, then sometimes it might be possible that auditee can raise the point, right? Auditee can raise the point. But 99% of the times the auditors, they focus that whatever finding they are going to give, they must relate this finding with some requirement of a standard. So your CAR form will contain the applicable function, process and procedure. For example, on which department you have raised this CAR. So for example, procurement department. Standard and clause number. Standard is 9001, clause number is our I think 7 or 8.5 or 8.6 clause for the purchasing. Then auditor name, the auditor who has performed this Audit finding statement, for example, the statement of non-conformance that during the audit of purchase department, PO1234, PO1235 were not having delivery date and the timeline. Then your car should be accepted by the auditee. It is a requirement in third party audits, it is a requirement in second party audits, it is a requirement in internal audit, that whatever the findings you are going to raise, it must be accepted by the auditee. If the auditee is not going to accept your findings, remember the case which I told you 2 days ago about my case. So they will not be able to take my findings. So when you are not be able to take their request to get back your finding, so and they are not going to take your finding, in this case they have option available for appeal. They can go for the certification body appeal system, they can go for the appeal with the accreditation body, and in this regard the system can be solved. So whenever you are going to raise any of the car, it must be accepted by the auditee. If it is not going to accept by the auditee, then it will not be a car. Because if he is not agree on this finding, then how he is going to implement this finding? How he is going to take the action on this finding? So it must be approved, it must be accepted, not approve, accepted. Approve means that some higher authority will do this, but auditee is not the higher authority. Auditee is your equivalent, so he has to accept. So if your finding is clear, if your finding is from the standard, so the auditee is not going to have any concern. They accept it and they say, okay, we will take the actions and we will come back to you again. Classification of cars: major car or minor car, or major non-conformity or minor non-conformity. When we are going to raise the major non-conformity, we are going to raise the major non-conformity when a failure to fulfill one or more requirements of ISO 9001. For example, as I give you the example already, if the policy is not available, right, it is a requirement of a standard that company shall have the policy available. If the objectives are not available, for example, it is a requirement of ISO 9001 that the company should have the objectives and plans available. If the company does not have internal audit or management review, these are all the requirements of 9001. When we say major car, if there is one mandatory requirement with the shell is not available, you can raise the non-conformance of major. And if there are multiple cases, then you can raise it, still you can raise it. So we cannot say that many requirements will come together, then we will be raising the major car. No. If one major requirement is not going to fulfill, we raise the major. For example, when I'm doing the audits, or before when I used to do the audits, I know that the companies who are certified from last 10 years, 8 years, they have very good command on the standard. So what I used to do, I used to go in the legal requirements in detail. So if the companies are not following the legal requirement, I used to give them the findings. Sometimes, because legal requirement is a mandatory requirement to fulfill for the business continuity. If you are not be able to meet the legal requirement of a country or a state, how can you run your business? So the legal requirement related to quality, the legal requirement related to health and safety, if the company is not going to fulfill these requirements, then you can raise it as a major non-conformance, no problem. So, or a situation that arises significant doubt about the ability of the QMS to achieve its intended outputs. When you see that there are gaps available. For example, you will go in one department and there is a problem that they don't have objectives available, or the internal audit, they all said that we have done the internal audit, but they don't have the documented information available, they don't have the schedule, or they don't have any report available for internal audit, but they said that internal audit is done, right? So in this kind of activity, when you find the same issues in all over the organization in many places, which means that the system is going to have breakdown. Okay, so this gap is not from one department, this gap is overall gap from the whole organization. For example, you have checked the training requirement. The training, you have seen that there are people are not aware in production When you go in the warehouse, you ask some question with the warehouse people about their work. They don't have clear idea, they don't have clear awareness or SOPs available. So you have find these small things in all departments. So when you come at the end of audit and you sit with your team, you said that I have gone through with 4 departments and they all 4 have the lack of awareness available. So in this regard, which means that the company is very weak in this point, and it might be possible due to this problem, the company can get the major non-conformance or the system is going to be collapsed. So the major non-conformance could be due to the lack of one shell requirement or due to small gaps from many departments. They can also come up with one major gap. Similarly, minor non-conformance are less severe lapse in process, procedure or operation of the. It is also a shell, but for example, 4 departments, they have the objectives available, but one of the department does not have the objective available. So in this case, you will have minor non-conformance. But if departments, they don't have the objectives available, in this case, it will be a major. For example, objectives are available, but these are not smart. Now standard required that your objective should be smart. So in this case, it will be a minor non-conformance. But if there are no objectives, then it will be raised as a major non-conformance. Yes, Mr. Rahat.
Yeah, here for the car, you mentioned major and minor. Major non-conformity and minor non-conformity. So as per my understanding, non-conformity something is, I mean, big, not minor or major. Yes, for corrective action, if this is for the non-conformity, as per my understanding, if corrective action is for the non-conformity, this should be major. But if the corrective action is for the opportunity for improvement, so it should be minor. But for the non-conformity, major, minor, I'm just confused with this term.
Okay.
Minor.
Don't see, when you are attending this training, forget about your existing system. Okay, forget about your previous knowledge, because what we are delivering, from where we get this major or minor non-conformity, we have taken it from ISO 17021, which defines the major and minor non-conformity, right? Any of the ISO body who is going to perform your audit, any of the certification body who is going to perform your audit, whenever they are going to do your surveillance audit, whenever they are going to do your stage 2 audit, they use the word of major and minor non-conformity, right? And then they use sometime observation, sometimes they use recommendation, sometimes they use the word of what do you call it, opportunities for improvement. So major and minor are same, because this major and minor definition, it is not from any other body, it comes from our accreditation body, which is we follow as a certification body. They are required to follow 17021. So this requirement comes from 17021. In ISO standard, they don't define it as a major or minor non-conformity. Always remember, there is no definition of major or minor non-conformity in ISO 9000 standard. This definition is coming from 17021 of major and minor non-conformities.
Okay.
Clear? Yes, guys. Any question? Yes, Ali Kishavi. Welcome
Hello,
back.
Sir. Sorry for late. One question. Can I change the major and minor meaning in the internal audit? Like the major in the third party or second party audit is to fulfill a more requirement. But can I change it in the internal audit to be...
Right. See, in internal audit, you are the king. You can do anything. Right? You need to define in your internal audit procedure. If you ask me, right, as far as my experience is concerned, or if you ask me as a consultant, that what is my suggestion for internal audit, so I would say don't go for the classification in internal audits. Make everything as a finding. Ask me why. Because
it's my system.
No, it's your system, definitely. Because the purpose of internal audit is the improvement. So if we will confuse the people in major and minor during the internal audit, then it might be possible. See, when you are going to give the finding, you always are having too much problems in the follow-ups, right? People say, okay, we will do this. Now we don't have time. It is serious thing or non-serious thing. So if you are going to make the classification in internal audits as a major or minor, so people most of the time they will ignore the minor things. But at the same time, it might be possible that the third party auditor consider this minor thing as a major, right? Because the people, they have ignored it, and this finding has been catched by the third party auditor. So it could be lead as a major non-conformance. So don't make the people confused with major or minor. Don't give them option to do this or don't do this. Tell them you have to do the root cause analysis. You have to do the corrective action for all findings. There is no concept of major or minor. It is my suggestion, right? I suggest these things to many of my customers, and they are much satisfied that, okay, because if they are going to have this classification, they face these challenges, that the people think that minor means they can ignore and they have to fulfill only the major requirements. Right, Ali?
Okay. Do you involve in implementing systems?
I am involved most of the time now. I'm doing consultancy rather than audits.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, Mazin, please.
Sir, in your example, you have mentioned that while the auditor was visiting the departments, he found one of the department doesn't have quality objectives or not smart quality objectives. Is it important that every department should have their own quality objectives, or maybe the organization have a total quality objectives which is related to the whole organization?
Yeah. Both are possibilities.
Both possible. Okay.
But these, when you say the company-wide objectives, should be reflect into the department as well. Remember, we did one
Yes,
we discussed the slide. Your objective should be cascade down. So every department, they will have their own objectives, but basically these objectives are coming from the top management objectives. Okay.
And
they should put their contribution in the fulfillment of objectives. They cannot say, or they I mean, it is not a good practice that they say that we have not been assigned with any objectives. The objectives are with quality managers. The objectives are with sales people. The purchase manager says that, oh, we don't have any objectives. Right?
Okay. And the audit, sir, when we are making this internal audit, it has to be scheduled, right? Everyone has to know when it will be done. We cannot make it like suddenly, right? So
yes. Audit is a planned activity, must be scheduled.
Okay, sir, how can we make sure, every time these departments will fulfill all the gaps just before the audit by 1 day or 2 days?
Yes.
What is the solution for something like this?
The solution is very easy. In Pakistan, we used to say, make them lithada. So you have to push them, right? You have to push them from top management. When you are going to assign them any timeline in your CAR format, they have to follow this timeline, right? Because if your top management is sitting in the meeting on quarterly basis or the monthly basis, and you are going to show them the status of the completed non-conformities, and when you are going to show them that out of 15 non-conformities still are out of 15 non-conformities, 7 are still open, and you are going to show them on monthly basis, then these people who are not going to listen, they are ultimately under pressure when the director is going to ask them. So unless your top management is not involved in QMS implementation, you cannot have effective implementation. Otherwise, when you will get exhausted, then you will say, okay, I will do this thing on behalf of you. This is the final solution.
Correct. This is what is happening now, right?
Yeah, in most of the companies it is happening. I also used to do this. That's why I know.
Thank you, sir.
Adil Hassan has asked the question, a combined quality objective of an organization for all department can be considered as a finding. Yes, it could be raised as a one finding, definitely. If you have, minor issues in all departments or many departments, no need for raise many findings. You can combine all these issues in one finding and raise one minor or raise one major, whatever you want. Should CAR be reported in particular design form? See, in our previous slide, we have given you the components. If you want to make design, you can design your own. The standard does not give any design. Okay, if you want to make 3 pages design, if you want to make 1 page design, if you want to make half page design, it is your own choice. Please repeat the reference document standard of major and minor. 17021.
Yes, sir, I
Yes.
got it.
Adil
Thank
has already written. Very good. Masood says okay. Okay. Okay means okay. Okay. The major non-conformant is going to be raised when? When the major non-conformant is going to be raised? Major non-conformance is going to be raised when there is an absence of or substantial failure to meet the requirements of a standard. When we say requirement, which means from clause number which to which? From clause number 4 to 10. Okay.
4 to
So
9.
4 to 10. 9 ka se 10.
Okay.
1 to 10, no. 1 to 3 are not the requirements. 1 to 3 are only for the reference margin. The requirement starts from 4. So the 4 to 10 are our requirements, right? Okay. So when the major non-conformance is going to raise, when there is a substantial failure to meet the requirement of a standard, absence or total breakdown of a process or procedure, critical to occupational health or safety or effective operation of the QMS. For example, total breakdown, there is no system for monitoring in the production department. There is no system for product approval and failure criteria. There is no specification documented for the product. So now there is a total breakdown of the system. Persistent supply of non-conforming goods or services. For example, you are going to find small gaps every time in various process. So these are all considering as major non-conformance. A minor non-conformity that has not been addressed within the specified time. For example, in stage 2 audit, you have a minor non-conformity, and most of the time when the auditor comes during the surveillance audit, he is going to verify your actions on last minor non-conformity. Remember, in the audit plan we also mentioned the same thing, review of the last audit finding. So this review is basically what they are going to see, what actions have you taken on the last minor non-conformity. If the actions are not being taken, or if the actions are insufficient, or the gap is still existing, now this minor non-conformity can be raised as a major non-conformity this year, right? Or a significant number of minor non-conformities against a particular element. Objectives are missing, objectives are missing, objectives are missing. Now every department objectives are not available, major non-conformity. Use of certification mark, misuse of certification mark or the ignition mark. This is, for example, the certification bodies, they have their own logos available. Accreditation bodies, they have their own logos available. If you are with the logos, they also give you the guideline how to use this logo. For example, as required by accreditation body, any of the logo should not be on the primary packaging of the product. For example, when you are going to take a wrapper of the biscuit, so this wrapper should not have the logo. You can write the statement an ISO 9001 certified company, but you cannot print the logo. The logo will always be printed on the secondary packaging. For example, you can put on the cartons, you can put on the letterheads, you can put on the note on the billboards for the advertisement purpose, you can put on the website, but on the primary packaging, the logo shall not be printed, right? So these are some of the requirements from the accreditation body. So is it clear about major? Don't be confused with major and minor, because this is very important. Section number 4 is all about major non-conform, or is all about non-conformities and no non-conformities. So in examination, there will be no such question about major or minor. The question will be if it's a non-conformance or it's a no non-conformance. Classification, the major must be, when you are going to perform the third party audit, what you need to do in case of major must be corrected and verified before registration can be recommended. When you are going to give a major non-conformity in stage 2, so it is a mandatory requirement for the organization to fulfill this non-conformity So after that, you will go again for the follow-up, and then you will recommend an organization for the recommendation of certification, right? May lead to registration being suspended if raised during the surveillance. As I told you before, that if you will have a major non-conformance during the surveillance audit, it means that now your registration with your continuation of certification can be suspended unless you are going to take the action of the major non-conformance. Sometimes organization think that on our certificate uh, there is an expiry of 3 years. So if we have any non-conformance, major non-conformance during the surveillance, is still no problem. But it is a requirement that if there is a non-conformance during the surveillance audit, then your certification can be cancelled. Minor non-conformance, more time allowed for correction because it is not a big issue. It is not a matter of life or death. So you can give them more time for taking the corrective action. Most of the time it is being verified during the second audit or for the surveillance audit, and it may be lead to the major non-conformance if the action is not being taken before the next audit. So most of the time in third party audit you will have around 1 year time to implement, but the certification body can ask you to submit the corrective action plan, right? They say that okay, this is a minor or major non-conformance, but against these minor and major non-conformance we need corrective action plan within 1 week or within 2 week time, so we can submit this to our accreditation body and they can issue the certificate. So in this case you have to just submit the plan, not the evidence for fulfill, because it might be possible that this non-conformity needs some decision making, some resources, some time. So it is not possible that it can be fulfilled in 1 week or 2 week time. So that's why they always ask you to submit the plan for your non-conformity. Okay, the question, if a product being released without any document evidence of authorization can be considered as a major. Yes, if the system requirement is there, because it is a requirement in clause number 8 that release of product, that while you are going to release of product, there must be a criteria available that on what basis you are going to release the product. So in this case you can raise it as a major non-conformance, and if you think it's not a big issue, then you can raise as a minor non-conformance. For example, you can see that there is a system available, SOP is available, but when you see in one of the sample of last week, it was not followed. So in this case, no need for major, you can raise a minor non-conformance. In second party audit, what is major non-conformance? The impact of major non-conformance could be contract may be withdrawn. Wallahi, I always fear with this thing, because when I'm as a approved auditor, second party auditor for Unilever, Nestle, I used to do the second party audits for their contractors and suppliers. They call it SEMATA audit, which is for health and safety, environment and social responsibility. So if they say that if our vendor or supplier will have less than 50 ratings, we are not going to take them in their system. And if the findings are going to be repeated next time, then we can take out of them from our system. So the impact of major non-conformity in terms of second party audit, that your contract can be withdrawn. You will not get the contract, your the project which are going on, they can be suspended. That's why when you are working in a construction sector, you always have fear of the consultant, because if consultant is going to raise any critical findings on you, then the client can cancel the contract, right? Similarly, the impact of minor, that you have to correct and you have to verify, you have to take action and send the evidence for the minor. So the client or the auditing body who is going to perform your second party audit, they can be satisfied and you can continue your actions. Because in second party audit there is no criteria for certification award or no award. So there is only impact on your contracts, there is only impact on the reputation. So that's why you have to take the actions on major non-conformance, you have to take the actions on minor non-conformances. In case of first party, yani in case of internal audit, what will be the impact? Car grading not essential. See, here also says that car grading, which means major, minor, is not essential. If you want to keep, you can keep. If you don't want to keep, no need to keep. It's your own choice. Purpose is the system improvement. So audit should be positive and constructive. So during the internal audit, we have seen 80% of the time you are in the war, right? You are in a war stage. You are taking the revenges with all the managers. Every auditor becomes the cowboy auditor, and everyone want to involve in the internal audit so they can raise the finding against their enemies. But this should not be the case. Our audit should be positive and constructive. That's why I'm saying that don't make the people confused with major and minor during the internal audit. Tell them if there is any finding, they have to take the action. They have to do their corrective action. Effective corrective action is more important in first party audit. The impact of first party audit finding is too much, because if the first party audit findings are not being taken as serious, then this will be raised as a finding by third party. So when third party will raise, then baden mushkil, right? It could be a big problem. So it is always good that we should see ourselves gradually before other will see us, right? If we are going to have good internal audit, if our internal auditor team is good, they are experienced, they know how to do the audit, and they are going with positive mindset to perform the audits, then you will find that this company has very less finding in the third party audits. This company has very less finding in the second party audit. But where the internal audit system is weak, where the company does not have skilled people to perform the internal audit, then we have to work hard as a third party auditor, and we will be giving you many findings, and then you have to take the actions. Any question? Yes, Ali.
How can we improve our skills in auditing?
By doing the auditing. By
okay,
doing the
but
audit again and again.
If I make the audit in my organization, you know, I'm responsible for everything regarding ISO and something like that. How can I increase my experience, just like you make third party audit, second party audit?
You can make second party audit. For example, your company will have how many suppliers they have? Minimum they will have 50 or 60 suppliers. Okay. Ask your purchase department to make the list of critical and non-critical suppliers. They will make the list of critical and non-critical. These critical suppliers are basically 20% of the suppliers who are fulfilling your 80% of needs, right? So
Okay.
take these 20% of supplier, discuss with them, let's have a meeting with them and tell them that from next quarter, we are going to start the system for your on-site audit. Some places, they are only going to provide you the spare parts or some material. In some cases, you are going to send your product at their site and they are modifying it, and then they will give it to back. So depending on the risk, depending on the criticality of your suppliers, you will be doing their audits. Like Aramco is doing the audit. Aramco does not, or in Aramco, there is a system requirement that they have to do all 100% audits before they take someone in the system. But for you, you are not Aramco, you are working in a normal size company. So you can do the audits of only critical, or any of the supplier who want to register in your company. For example, I'm a new supplier. We want to have the vendor qualification with your company. So you will say, okay, submit these document, and then our team will come to your site and they will do the audits. And after, on the basis of their report, we can take you in our system. So this is how you can improve your auditing skills. And whenever you get the opportunity to work as a freelance with any of the third party, don't miss it. Even if they ask you to work with them free of cost, it will always be a very good experience to work with them, even free of cost. But if I will be using you, we will give you something. I mean, like TADA, just to have a very good lunch. That's it.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Then we have, after non-conformities, we have opportunity for improvement. Opportunity for improvement are, you can say recommendations, you can say positive points, you can say whatever there is a need for improvement. For example, now 3 months back, I think in November or in December, we did the lead auditor course for the quality. And in that course, there was a manager from Abdul Latif Jameel Cars vehicle. So the next week, I have to go for the audit of one metal steel company, those who are producing the spare parts or these kind of products for automobile sector. So when because I was not approved as a sector expert for this company, we asked them, please join us for one day if possible, they have the time available. So then he submitted all his CV, job letters and all these things. On the basis of these things, we get his approval as a sector expert. So in that audit, I was the lead auditor, but with me he was acting as a sector expert. So as far as the auditing skills are concerned, I was the expert, and as far as technical skills are concerned, he was the sector expert. He was guiding me that I should ask this question, this question. He was reviewing the documents for the production department, for the operations department, which are more technical side. So this is how certification bodies can use any of you as per your expertise, and more oftenly as far as your links are concerned. Anyway, opportunities for improvement. What are those opportunities for improvement? For example, good points which may benefit other areas of organization. For example, if one of the monitoring is not going to be fulfilled, or if you find one of the light is fused, or if you find one of the calibration, one of the gauge is not calibrated. So in this case, you can raise it as a minor as a opportunity for improvement. So they can see that about the others, how the other gauges can be improved. So opportunities for improvement are always a good thing. But keep in mind that opportunities for improvement are not the shell part, right? Opportunities for improvement are not the shell part. Opportunities of improvement are may part. If the organization, they want to improve themselves, they can take this opportunity for improvement. If the organization think that no, it is not necessary for us, or we already have very good system for these things, so it is their own call. It is not necessary. Areas of concern. Remember, I told you yesterday that sometimes due to lack of time, due to your sample size, you will not be able to conclude whether it's a non-conformity or it is not a non-conformity. So in this case, you are going to raise area of concern, that okay, this is the area of concern. I was not be able to conclude this. So as an organization, you should see this in detail, and if the action is needed, you can take the action. And tell them clearly that it might be possible this area of concern, the next time when the auditor come or I will come, we can have in detail about this area of concern, and then it could be a problem for you. So it's better that you should see by yourself about any of the area of concern. Then we have deficiencies given in the benefit of doubt. Benefit of doubt always go to our auditees, right? Our auditees they are always right, and that's why we always take care for them. Unless we are not 200% sure, we are not going to raise the finding. So benefit of doubt is always goes to the auditee. And consideration for improvement. For example, you have seen some good practices in the same sector. For example, you are going in in Pepsi, you have seen some good practices in Coca-Cola. You are also going in some other same kind of beverage companies. So in this case, without saying any name, you can give them any of the improvement opportunity. So they can take this and they can improve. Remember, I told you yesterday that sometimes after closing meeting, the top management is going to ask you, okay, please sit with us, right? Please sit with us and give us the opportunities for improvement. Give us the improvement opportunities, or the good practices which you have seen in your experience or the companies they are doing, so we can also improve ourselves. So in this case, we can provide some of the opportunities for improvement verbally off the record, so they can improve themselves. So the question is, how much experience is required to be considered sector? Minimum 3 to 5 years. This sector expert, 5 years is better, but minimum 3 years is okay. Sector expert will be the provisional QMS. Or see, sector expert, to have the sector expert quality or any of the lead auditor course is not the necessity, but we prefer, right? For example, even if you are not a lead auditor, but you are having expertise in any of the sector, so the certification body can use you as a sector expert. But when they are having comparison, okay, you are 5 years experience, the other guy is also 5 year experience in the same sector, but that guy is also lead auditor course. So they would prefer someone who has the lead auditor course, because he can understand the terminologies of standard, he can understand the dynamics of audits much better than that guy who is not having any auditing experience. So sector expert could be a QMS provisional auditor, it could be a lead auditor, it could be an internal auditor, no problem. Yes, Adi, any question?
Sir, as a team member, if a sector expert is there, he can fill his auditor log as well, right? On auditor log.
Yes, when you are fulfilling as a sector expert, in your auditor log, you will write that I have performed this audit and my role was sector expert.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question, guys? Major, minor non-conformance, impact of non-conformities, opportunities for improvement. Any question from? Okay, very good. So now we will take 5 minutes break, 10 minutes break, and then we will continue further. Okay, so in session number 10, what we are going to discuss, it is our last session as far as the session is concerned, as far as the presentation is concerned. After that, we will have some exercises and the role play. The role play is very interesting activity where we divide the team into two groups. One of them are auditee and one of them are auditors. So then you have to go in the company and you have to perform the audit, and then you have to raise the finding and submit your finding after having discussion with them. So it's a very interesting activity. Session number 10 is about reporting. Now we have learned how to plan the audit. First thing which we discussed in our initial days, it was understanding the standard. After understanding of standard, we discuss how to plan the audit, where we discuss about audit plan. Then we discuss about what are the documents needed to perform the audit. These were all the planning part, right? Then we discuss about how to conduct the audit. What are the attributes of auditor? What are the do's and don'ts when you are performing the audit? After that, we discuss about how to raise the findings, which of the findings can be categorized as minor or major non-conformances or observation or opportunities for improvement. And now it's time to submit your report. The report submission is also same thing like non-conformities. Sometimes the auditors are very good in finding the non-conformities. Sometimes the auditors are very good to do the audit on site, but when it comes to report, they are weak. So, and the most important document which you are going to submit after the audit is your audit report. And again, like your findings are going everywhere, it can have a problem for a company only due to your wordings. We don't say that no need to raise the non-conformities because this report is going to top management, or this report will go to the customer, or this report will go for the legal bodies. We don't say this, but we say that your report should reflect what is in actual. Don't go for too much harsh or too much strict wording, and do not become very lousy. Do not give them too much chance that you have raised one non-conformity, and in the non-conformity you are writing that it may be done or it could be done. So this will not be a justify. This will be then question mark on the auditor capability. This could be a question mark on the certification body itself, that how they have trained their auditors. So your report, your non-conformances, your findings should reflect the actual picture. This is what we also discussed, that we have to be fair during the audit. If something is more critical, we will say it is more critical. If something is less critical, no need to say that it is more critical. So in this session we are going to discuss presenting the finding, audit reporting, audit completion, corrective action, CAR status, management review, and follow. So audit reporting and follow, what we are going to do, it's about presenting the findings again. Yeah. Describe the purpose, structure and content and attendees. Typical at the closing meeting, how we are going to perform the closing meeting. Remember we discussed about the opening meeting. So now we are finalizing our audit. We are finishing our audit. We need to discuss about the closing meeting. Preparation, approval and distribution of audit report. Be aware of information needed to recommend the certification decision. If the company has non-conformities, if they have the major non-conformity, in this case, the certification will be hold. In case of minor non-conformities, the certification can be awarded. So this is a very careful decision which you have to take as an auditor. Understand the role of auditors and explain the roles and responsibilities for taking and verifying corrective actions. Explain steps necessary to address corrective actions. When you are going to raise the non-conformity, now there are some responsibilities which are being divided among auditor and auditee. What are these responsibilities? We will discuss in this session. Then we have identify types of evidence that may be required to demonstrate effective implementation of corrective actions, understand the roles of management review, and appreciate the steps necessary to follow up and close up. So only when you are on site performing the audit is not your responsibility, but to follow up until the closeout of corrective actions, it is your responsibility. As a lead auditor, if you are leading the team in the third party, if you are leading the team in second party or the internal audit, it is your responsibility that after the audit, you have to keep follow up until the audit findings are going to be closed, right? So closing meeting, what we need to do in the closing meeting?
What?
We have to discuss all the findings in front of the auditee.
In the closing meeting, what we need to do is, the first thing, how much time for closing meeting of finding, for closing of findings? Closing of findings depend on their severity, right? If it is a minor non-conformity, in case of third party audit, right? In the internal audit, you can define 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, depending on the actions. But when you talk about third party audit, here, most of the time for the minor non-conformances, you can give up to 1 year because you don't have much time. When you will come the next year, you will verify the effectiveness. But before this, you will take the corrective action plan from them. And then you will say, okay, this, you will review the plan and you will say, okay, now we will see the finding in surveillance audit. But in case of major, you will give them 3 months time maximum. So within 3 months, they have to take the actions, and then you will go again to perform the follow-up audit. So in closing meeting, the first thing what we need to do is present all findings and evidence carefully and precisely, right? Remember, the closing meeting will be chaired by the top management, maybe company CEO, company chairman, board of directors, all are sitting in front of you. So you have to present your findings very carefully and precisely with the clarity. Be prepared to support and justify finding. because remember I told you, when you are presenting your finding in the closing meeting, like you are prepared, auditee is also prepared for the argument, right? Sometimes they have strong arguments and sometimes they make the argument for the sake of argument. So you have to be prepared for these things. You mentally, you should be in a position to take their questions. And very important thing, what is going to give you the confidence that your evidences, that your audit trail, if you are having good audit trail, if you are having good evidences, then you will be confident that whatever question they are going to ask at the end of the meeting, I will make them satisfied. Do not be drawn into the argument. This is very important point. Sometimes auditee wants, especially manager level people, when the finding come on their department, they get aggressive. Oh, no, this is not the case. You did not ask me this thing. You did not, find this thing, that thing. Don't put in the argument. Tell them politely, okay, after the closing meeting, we can discuss it. No problem, right? But at this time, because the top management is sitting, they have limited time. Also, you have limited time. So tell them if they have any concern, they can, if it is, need to discuss in detail, you can discuss after the closing meeting. If any error transpires, apologize, alter, or withdraw if necessary. You are a professional auditor. The first thing, that there should be no such error. But at the same time, you are also human. So it might be possible there is some error, there is some misunderstanding, there are some points which you are not be able to conclude and you have written as a finding. So in this case, if the auditee is providing you a proper justification, take them. No need to think that since I am an auditor, whatever I have written, it is the final word. No, it's not like this. You have to be professional. It is not going to, lower your esteem. It is going to make your esteem. It is going to make you more respectful in front of auditees. So no problem if you, or if they are going to give you a proper justification on any of the finding, or if there is any mistake, you should take it and you should correct it. Do not accept a quick fix. What is quick fix? For example, you have raised the finding that the company does not have procedure for example, the company procedure, the quality policy does not define a commitment for improvement. And they will say, okay, sir, just sit here and we will update our policy and we will submit to you, and please take out this finding. Or you have raised the finding that the gauge needed for the inspection of product was not working. So they will say, okay, no problem, just wait 10 minutes, we will ask our maintenance department, they will change the gauge, and then you can take out the finding. So these kind of quick fixes are not acceptable, right?
You will do cooking.
Exactly. Sometimes you are going to ask them that, okay, you can take these actions, no problem, but I will check it later, or send us the evidences, no problem. But at this moment, or when I did the audit, this problem was available, and I discussed with your area in charge or representative who was responsible for who was with me during the audit, and they have agreed. So that's why it has been raised as a finding. So if you are going to quick fix, no issues, but this finding will remain as a finding, and we will see your corrective action during the next audit, right? So closing meeting is very important. It is a necessary part of the audit. If possible, in the closing meeting, as I told you, top management should be available. If top management is not available, so what can you do? You can ask them, okay, who is the second line of management? They must be available. For example, if director is not available, you can say, okay, general manager, or in the absence of general manager or the director, who is in charge of the company, he should be available. So you can discuss your finding with them. In case none of the top management is available, or the quality manager or QMS manager says, sorry, at the moment we don't have any our management staff available to meet with you. So in this case, no problem. You can submit your report and tell them, okay, let them review, and if they have any question, they can ask me. but we have to fulfill our requirements of the audit, that we have to complete our audit in a professional way. Then we have audit report. Audit report must be accurate, contains conclusion concerning the extent of conformance and effective implementation. So our audit report is basically an evidence that we have performed the audit. Our audit report and our audit trail is going to tell the client that how much depth we have gone, how many activities we have carried out. So these activities or these trail or these points in the report, they are going to give you the idea, the extent of conformance. And similarly, also the extent of non-conformance. Definitely you are going to write if there is any non-conformance or there are any non-conformance in the system of the company, then you are going to write all these things in the report which you are going to submit them. And then effective implementation, that how effective is their implementation. Again, this will be reflecting through your trail, this will be reflecting through your audit report which you are going to submit. And ability to management review to process to ensure continuing suitability and effectiveness of QMS. And then you are going to define the decision, right? You are going to define the decision in your report that you are recommended for the certification or you have major non-conformance. So you are on hold, you have to take corrective actions, and then we will award you the certification or recommend you the certification. So these all details should be available in the audit report. Make sure that your audit report should be clear and detailed, so there is no such missing. But don't make your audit report too much detailed or confusing that it can create a problem for the company, or it can create the problem. It can create a problem for the auditee to take the actions. Your report is not the exam of your English language. Your report is the exam of what you have done during the audit. Corrective action. What is corrective action? As defined by ISO 9001:2015, action to eliminate the cause of non-conformity and to prevent recurrence. So before there was no such definition, and to prevent recurrence, right? It was the definition a part of preventive action, but now in corrective action it is included, that whatever actions we are going to take to eliminate the cause. Because if, what is the difference between corrective action and correction? Correction is the interim action, correction is the quick fix. So initially we will take the correction and then we will do the corrective action. But for the corrective action, we need to have the root cause analysis, we need to have the action plan available, and then we will be taking the corrective action. So this is our typical corrective action cycle. Remember, I told you there are some points in the corrective action or after submission of audit report which is being performed by the auditor, and there are some points which are needed to be done by the auditee. So what are those points? For example, auditor responsibility is to identify the non-conformity and write the statement of non-conformity. After writing the non-conformity statement, he will make the classification about major or minor. Then there is a responsibility of client or the auditee, that management eliminates the detected non-conformity. They have to take the actions to eliminate the detected non-conformity. This is not the corrective action here. The first thing they will take as a correction to quick fix this thing, and then they will do the investigation and root cause analysis. After the root cause analysis, they will take the corrective action. When they are going to determine the corrective action, it is in a planning stage, right? They are not going to take the corrective action. They are going to develop the plan about the corrective action, and this corrective action plan they are going to submit the auditor. Auditor will review this corrective action plan, and once he is agree, okay, the actions you have mentioned, it seems that these are okay and they will meet the requirement of the standard, or they will effectively fulfill the non-conformity. After that, they are going to take the action. They are going to implement those actions, and then once they are going to implement those actions, so in internal audit you will go after the timeline comes, or in case of second and third party audit, you will check them in the surveillance audit or in the next audit. and after reviewing the effectiveness, you will close their corrective action which has been reached. So is it clear? This is very important cycle. Sometimes in exam it comes like 5 marks, or sometimes also in 10 marks there, where the question comes that okay, what are the responsibilities of auditor and what are the responsibilities of auditee during the corrective action while they are going to take the corrective. So you have to define separately the responsibilities of auditor and responsibilities of auditees. Not necessary to make these kind of boxes, but you can make in the form of flow chart, or you can make as a statements. Continual improvement. The organization must continually improve the suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness of QMS. By how they are going to improve? The last clause of standard is continual improvement, clause number 10. If this is part of our act, if the organization is not going to improve due to the actions, due to the QMS, then which means the QMS is not effectively implemented. So the organization, how they are going to improve themselves? By evaluating or by checking the effectiveness of output of analysis and evaluation, outputs from management review, and opportunities for improvement. This opportunity from improvement, it will come from corrective actions. This opportunity from improvement will come from our risk assessment. This opportunity for improvement will come from our customer feedback and complaint. So those companies who are having good system of corrective actions, they are raising the cars other than audits. They have the system available for opportunity for improvement. They are going to improve their system. They are the good companies who are implementing the QMS in a true sense. Similarly, the audit process provides information and evidence that can be used in the evaluation. Our audits, which we are going to perform, the audits, they are also a very good source of improvement, because when you are having internal audit or second party audit or third party audit, they are going to give you some findings, and on these findings you are taking corrective action. So when you are taking the corrective actions, which means your system is going to be improved. So this is very necessary that you are going to use this audit as a improvement tool. Always remember, auditing, if it is a first party or second party or third party audit, it needs resources. It is a resourceful activity. Don't take them as a non-serious activity or just for the formality, because when you are doing the internal audit, which means that you have taken out 1 or 2 auditors from their work, you have taken out the departmental manager or the representative from their work, and they are going to do the audit. Similarly, if you have different sites, so this gentleman or this team of auditors, they are going to another site, which means the transportation cost, which means the time cost, and they are going to engage the other people as well. So if an employee is taking 15,000 salary, for example, so which means that the 500 real is per day cost on average. So you are using this employee auditor for 2 days, for 3 days, for the corrective actions. Then he will be following up for the corrective action and the audit report, which means that you are spending minimum 3-4,000 only for one employee. Similarly, what about the auditees? You have taken 2 to 3 hours for the auditees, and then to make the actions on the corrective action, it is a responsibility of auditee. So it needs sometime half days, sometime it needs 3 hours, 4 hours. So this is all cost involved. So if your audit is an ineffective audit, internal audit, so you have waste on average around 10 to 12,000 real, which is a good cost, right? Similarly, when you are inviting any third party and they are doing the audit, no, most of the time they charge like 3,000, 3,500 for one auditor for 1 day, right? So in this case, what will happen? If you are not be able to take these findings, if this audit is not going to fulfill any improvement in your system, which means you have wasted 15,000, 18,000, 20,000, depending on the size of the organization, you are wasting this money. So always remember, auditing is a resourceful activity. even when you are going to take the training of this audit, you are spending the money, right? So this is again resource requirement. Some of you are being sponsored by the company, some of you are doing this activity from their own. So in both of the cases, it is the resource required activity. So don't take audit as a casual activity. Audit is a formal activity. We need to understand the true spirit of audit, and we have to perform the audit so we can take the benefit from the audits, right? Any question? Any question? No question? Okay. So I think Alhamdulillah we have finished the course slides. Now only remaining the.
Can we sit one day after this course?
Yeah, I was also thinking the same thing, that after 3-4 days we can sit together again to have a
We can make
revision
it a week.
and to discuss about the exam and to have the review. So now if you open your learner guide, open your learner guide, page number 166, 167, 166 in fact. Workshop number 11, 166, right? Number
Yes.
160. Everyone is with me? Yes, guys. Are you with me now? Many of you are sleeping, I think.
We are here.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Okay. Where is Abdul Wahab? Ali Al-Shahri, Bandar Abdullah, Dia,
Yes, sir.
Ibn. Good. Okay. Now